So in CCS2301 business analysis system design, this module we are going to cover up like how a software system is built and how as the analysis perspective, how we can, gather information required to design and build the information system. So we will discuss all the details about from the requirement collection to actually build the system, test system, and even, deploy the system. So that's the generally what we expect. So any module, I would like to prescribe some text. Those who want to know the material very well. So here are two books I would like to recommend for you to start have a look. And this is common module we used. This is there are two books, and actually what I used for all my notes, the second reference. So in case if you want to follow my notes, so maybe you can have a look at the second reference. Right. Let's get back to the aim. So in this module, we wanted to give you the principles and techniques used in system analysis and design. And we are trying to work on how to provide solutions using software systems. So when you want to solve a particular business problem, right, we need skills in business analysis. That means you have to have a good knowledge in what is happening in a business. And then the second one, software development life cycle, which means like what will happen each of these different stages in the software development. And under that, we are going to talk about system planning, requirement analysis, modeling, system design, and implementation. Those are like 5 phases that you will see in the software development life cycle. So at the end of this module, you have to have a good understanding about how do you solve a real world business solution using a software system, and how do you develop such a system. So so what we expect at the end of the course, you should have these set of skills and the knowledge, which means you should have a good understanding about what business analysis does, especially during the beginning of software development. And then when it comes to developing an information system, usually you have to start a software development project. So as the second one, we expect you to have planning the system and also the development project from initializing to scheduling. So which means we will discuss some of the techniques where we will use to understand how long it will take to complete the software development project. Third one, analyzing functional and non-functional requirements, which means any software system, you have functional requirements. For example, let's say you are going to develop a library information system. The functional requirements include about, borrower information, book information, and so on. So those are functional one. Similar to that, there are non-functional requirements as well. For example, how many users could be able to use the system for a particular given time. Then the fourth one is use of different modeling techniques. Throughout this module, we will discuss various different tools we are going to model our system. So data flow diagram is one such. Then UML, business process modeling, entity relationship diagrams, and so on. So ER diagrams are you will also learn in database systems in this semester. Last one, apply system design and implementation technique for system acquisition and construction, which means like once you collected all the required information, either you can develop your own system or you can actually get from somebody else, or we have designers to build the system. So that it will be our last learning outcome. Right. I think this is one of the important things for me, for you, about like how the assessment happened in this module. So this one is more or less theoretical, but there are like some development techniques, which means we'll have set of group works. I will put you in groups and ask you to work as a group on a particular problem. So you will get about like 20% of the marks coming from continuous assessment. Then we have two examinations, mid and end, which will cover the various topics we cover. So mid semester, which consists of about 30% of the total marks, and the end will carry out around like 50%. Right. Any questions before we move on? No questions? Okay. Remember that this will be really, really boring because this is more on theoretical, module compared to my previous module. So remember, always ask questions like clarification about the material that we are going to discuss. So always feel free to raise your hands, type your question in the chat. So make use of these different channels. Hopefully we can have physical sessions once after the New Year break. Right. Okay, so these are actually two photographs I have taken from the book. And these two images will show you like how people come to work in 1950s and around 2030. So early days when people come to work, you have to keep track of their attendance. They had what we call the attendance card system. You have to punch them when you start working. Now in 2013 in developed countries, you use some electronic card system like a credit card nowadays, for marking attendance. But if you look at what happens nowadays, we have fingerprints, face recognition, even iris is used to mark the attendance. So you can see how the time has actually changed. So why we presented this is to understand is the system are developed from manual systems to computerized systems. So by learning information technology, and as a students, I hope you now understand that your contribution in the society is coming up with solutions, software solutions to various different real world problems. So in that respect, IT and system analysis and design is very important, and that's what we are trying to understand in this part. So as you may already know, the IT stands for information technology, which is a combination of hardware, software, services, which we can use to manage, communicate, and share information. Basically, information is what is useful for us, and we use different hardware platforms, computers, servers, and various types of software and services to manage them. So IT is, when you put everything together. At the same time, when you ask me like what a system analysis and design is, it's a developing information systems. Now, we use, um, hardware, software services to share information, but the system analysis and design, which is a process we use to develop, information system, which transform data into useful information. So system analysis and design is very, very important because it involves developing information systems. Now, when we talk about the essential components, we can see there are 5 different types of components. We have hardware, software, data, processors, and people. Now, when we say hardware, it might be starting from your mobile device, your tablet, your computer, but then it can go like, more powerful computer resource like servers, right? So those are called hardware stuff. Then software, which we use to control our hardware and we are going to produce whatever the desired information. So that means you have both system software and application software. Data, you have raw material, and the processors is what we use. We might use different tasks and business functions, and to manage users, managers, and IT staff members to achieve specific results. And the people is who are interested in information systems. So these 5 are the essential components of an information systems. Right. Now, if you look at what is happening in businesses, early days, we used to have like brick and mortar, we used to say, which means you have physical, right? If you go to your village, for example, if you take a small shop, you see there are physically, you can see a building and persons are working. Whereas nowadays, sometimes everything is virtual. That means there are no physical spaces like in early days. It could be in your garage or in your room, right? So the business could happen anywhere through various software systems. Now, one of the things to start with, we are going to start looking at system analysis. Is a person who is actually, understand the company and their operations, right? But you need to understand that today it's rapidly increasing globalization, which means that when you have a business nowadays, you are not just serving into your village, but you are trying to serve it for the whole world, right? So that's what we call globalization. Sort of, for example, from e-commerce platform like Amazon, eBay, right? Even Daras, you can see that you are not going to cater only to your hometown. You can go to, whole island and even the whole world. Second one is technology integration. So everywhere in the business, you can see technologies are used. For example, starting from people coming into work, we have fingerprint scanners, face, recognition systems, right? So we use technology everywhere. Even in office environment, you have computers, you use office packages to manage information. So everything is now, depend on technology. Third, the rapid growth of cloud-based computing, which means early days we tend to use our own computers, own servers, we normally call on-premise. But now with the cloud computing, we are going to have a separate, excuse me. Give me a second. Right. The third one we were discussing the cloud-based computing, which means now everything we use to put in the cloud. Now we, for example, even nowadays we are not going to depend on our own computer. We can keep all our data in some other place like Google Drive, Dropbox, right? Which seamlessly access from other devices. So cloud computing is also affecting the way how the computer systems are operated nowadays. Right. Now, first part, we need to represent, business operations. And you know that if you look at our university, SLTC, for example, it's again a business. Yeah, in a way, you can see all the operations happening inside our business operations, right? So let's say we are going to build a system for the university. So you need to first understand what is happening inside all the operations. So the system analysis is use different modeling to represent company operations and information. So assuming that, let's say we want to build an information system for the university, right? You need to first understand what are the information you need. So business process modeling involves a business profile and a set of models that document business operations. So what do you mean by business process? Now, for example, now you are in the first year. You just enter the university looking to pursue an IT degree. And after 4 years' time, you will leave this place as IT graduates. So basically, all the business operations within the university will transform you, right? As a student, you come in to an IT graduate, right? So there are various processes are involved in it. So you can see we are delivering lectures, we are conducting lab classes, we have assessments, and then you can have like competitions, other extracurricular activities throughout 4 years' time, and you have internship and everything. And then what you come as a student, you will be transformed into a IT graduate. So which involves various different types of processes. So, but you need to understand first thing, there should be a business profile, right? Any organization, you have a profile. So profile means what is company's mission, right? So for example, if you look at a typical university mission, is they want to excel in respective education, isn't it? So they want to be the number one university in the country which offers, cutting edge IT degrees for their students. So that could be one of the missions. So any organization, when you talk about the business profile, you can see company's mission, their functions, organizations, products, services, customers, suppliers, competitors, constraints, and future directions. I will give you some example, like when we say university's perspective, we have organization, which means like our university operations. We have an academic arm as well as non-academic arm. So under the academic arm, we have lecturers, we have TAs, right? And then we have registrar, like non-academic. All these comes together. We are working on, deliver. Then the products in the university, the product will be, for example, in IT, we have 4 products, like we are providing IT in degree in data science, degree in software engineering, cloud computing, cybersecurity. These are the products that we have. Then there are services, the customers, for example, customers are you. And then there are suppliers, which means there are supporting people or various suppliers are there. For example, we have some equipment suppliers which they provide all the hardware requirements. Then we have competitors like other universities, like state and non-state universities. Then we have constraints, like we have to work on maybe a budget where we have to work on this. And then also we have to have some future directions. Right, so that's about the business profile. So any organization, you can identify this particular business profile. Then we have business processes. So when you say a business process, is a specific set of transactions, event results that can be described and documented. Right. For example, business process modeling is a technique that we are going to learn in the coming sessions. We can graphically represent what is happening. For example, let's say you are going to buy a chicken, right? So for example, when you are to purchase a chicken, starting from farm to the shopping mall, there's a process. There are various business functions are there. So that we have to graphically show you as a process. For example, registering a degree in a university, there's a process, right? Or opening a bank account, there's a process. There are various steps you need to follow to accomplish a particular task, right? So those are the business processes. Then we have to have business information systems. So any organization, you will see different, they will use different information systems to keep their information. The first is we call enterprise computer system, which is quite large, which helps for whole organization. So if the information system support whole organization level operations, we call enterprise resource planning system. So it can support users and managers throughout the company. So this is quite common in bigger companies. Second one, transaction processing systems. So in day-to-day business operations comes under transaction processing system. For example, if you go to a bank, usually customers will deposit and withdraw money. So these things could be recorded in what we call the transaction processing system. Next, business support system. Many of the time we build system, we build software to understand what is happening. Now in business support system, you supports to users at each of these levels. Fourth one, we call knowledge management systems or KMS. So in KMS, you have a very large database, and then you can use that database to find information by entering a query, right? And these are called knowledge management system, which is again useful for the humans. The last one, user productivity system or UPS. For example, to improve the productivity of the users, they can provide email, fax, video, web conferencing, word processing, automatic calendaring, and so on. So these are like typical user productivity system. Right, I told you one thing about the business process modeling, where you can have a kind of a flow chart, like a diagram, which will represent a particular function. So in this simple business process model, or in BPM, we call it, you can find an event and then 3 processes, and then you will have a result. So when you receive sales order, then you check the customer status, verify customer credit, and then enter customer order data. So that's how you can represent. Right. Another thing that you need to understand, any organization, you should see different functions. Even it is available in our university as well. So any organization, you have HR, human resource, which means you have to recruit people, you have to keep them, you have to work on them. So HR does that. Then accounting, profit and loss, sales, marketing, production, IT. So these are like different functions. And how it maps to organizational levels. So depending on our requirements, you can see it will map into different places. Right. Now that we understood what an information system is and what a business profile is, next thing we should discuss is what are the information needs. So depend on different users, their requirement changes. It's like, I think we all use LMS, right? We all use LMS. But what you look at LMS is completely different from what I expect. Because as a teacher, I want to see something. As a student, you want to see something else. So remember, depend on the user. We have to make changes, change our requirements. So the top management, usually they develop long-range plans, which is we call strategic plans. It defines company's overall mission and goals. So they can use information technology to set up company's course and direction. The second level is mid-managers and knowledge workers. And depending on their requirements, right, they can use, we have knowledge workers, we call it, right? They can use what we call business support systems or knowledge management systems or user productivity systems, right, to support their information requirement. Then the other two is supervisors and team leads. Simply you oversee the other employees, right? For that, they can use decision support information, knowledge management systems, user productivity systems, and so on. And finally, we have operational employees who really works on transaction processing system. Like in a bank, the front row in the back, usually they work as operational employees. Right. Now, having said that, let's discuss about modeling. Usually, when we say system development tools, there are various development techniques are there. We might not be able to discuss everything, but we discuss at least essential ones. So in the modeling, we will create model to represent data, object networks, and other systems. And you can do this by creating early working version of the information system, which we call the prototype. And then you can use different case tools, right? So these case tools can be used to help the students analysis and develop the maintain information systems. Right. Now that we have discussed the basics, now we are going to look at what are the steps that we need to follow in system development, right? So there are various system development approaches are there. When I say system development, it's development of information system, right? Whatever the software that you are going to develop, you can use different approaches. The first one we call structured analysis, a traditional method, which is what you usually have. Then object-oriented analysis, it will be a more recent approach compared to structured analysis. Then we have agile, which is latest trends. And then there are other methods like joint application development and rapid application development. So let's look at what structured analysis is. So structured analysis, you have a defined set of phases, and these are known as system development life cycle. Usually we talk about something called waterfall model. So structured analysis, we use a plan, which means you have some kind of a plan for constructing something, right? So this we can use to describe system graphically and address data organization structure, relation database design, and user interface issues. So now you can see various phases available in software development lifecycle. The first one says system plan initial stage. You have not undertaken any developments. Now I told you, like in this one, we are looking at system development. And what you notice here is core system development life cycle. In short, we say SDLC, which shows you 5 different stages in software development. So the initial stage is known as system planning, which means starting from the requirement gathering. So you understand the requirement, whether it's feasible, things like that. And this is where the planning comes in. At the end of this, you will get what we call preliminary investigation report as outcome. Then once you decide that, okay, the system we are going to create, you have to first perform system analysis. So which should lead to something called system requirements document. Then you have systems design, which is design part of the software. So we have system design specification. Once you have finished discussion, you have to implement. So this is called a functioning system. And once we build the system, we have to keep on improving, keep on supporting. And the outcome is fully operational system. Right, that's about the structured analysis. That means traditional software development. The second one we call object-oriented analysis, which we are going to see everything as objects. So for example, in the university environment, we can see lecture objects and student objects. And then each of these objects we characterize using their properties. And then built-in processes called methods. And then each of these objects interact each other with messages. So usually you have to use an object-oriented programming language, and programmer, then you write the code which will create the objects. And then in any object-oriented methodology, you have a space, and then you have to follow a series of phases, which is similar to system development life cycle, but they are more interactive. The next one, what you notice is simple example of object-oriented analysis. And when you learn about object-oriented programming, you will get to know better. So in this one, you see three different objects: the person, instructor, and student. And you can notice that person is common to both instructor and student, which means person commonly, any person you can have name, addresses, and date of birth, right? So when you create objects from the parent object in the person, usually all the properties will be inherited, we call it. So you will see in both student and instructor, you can identify name, address, and date of birth. So these are called inheritance properties. Then you can have extra other properties like office location, office phone, and email, GP advisor for student. So in this one, you can see it's iterative fashion. You can develop, you can plan, analyze, and design. And always you have a prototype. And then you take that prototype into the testing. The last one for today, we are going to discuss about agile methods. Now, the previous one we discussed traditional software development life cycle. And then agile, software development life cycle and object-oriented analysis. They are like very traditional, but what is more recent is called agile. So this is called newest development approach. And what happens is you develop system incrementally. That means instead of creating a system completely, you go by the steps. And each of the time you are trying to improve, right? So that's what agile basically does. So this is usually you will have a spiral model, what you have noticed earlier. And then you have a series of iterations. And in each of these iterations, you can actually identify errors you made in the previous step and get it corrected, right? And especially the focus is user feedback. So in previous sessions, our involvement for the user is very minimal, right? But in Agile, we tend to get more user input. And there are like various techniques we use under the agile methods, like Scrum and extreme programming are, two examples. Right. With that said, I will conclude a session for today. And what I covered is basics of the module. I shared all the reference details and started with the introduction. So I also uploaded all the lecture material in the fields you can access.